I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's program. And we have with us today Jim Brown, who is the former grade running back for the Cleveland Browns and is presently pursuing a successful acting career. As one of the greatest football players who ever lived, Jim Brown led the league in rushing 8 times and gained over 12,000 yards rushing in his 9 seasons with Cleveland. Jim Brown was all-pro fullback every season he played, and in 1964, he won the $10,000 diamond-studded Hickok belt as the Professional Athlete of the Year. Since retiring from football, he has been in such movies as The Dirty Dozen, I Station Zebra, Riot, Dark of the Sun, The Split, Tick, 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 100 Rifles, and The Grasshopper, in which he played an ex-football hero of all things. Jim Brown is also chief founder and supporter of the Black Economic Union, which was founded to provide financing to black people who want to go into business. What we're going to do today is Mr. Brown will open with a short statement, and then we're primarily going to have a question-answer period. And we have mics that we will bring to you, so if you will raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you so you can ask the question. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce Jim Brown.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now? Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is an embarrassing way to start. But first of all, it's a pleasure to be here at UCLA, to get a chance to rap with you, because I used to go out and I used to lecture. I used to talk about an hour and a half as the president of the Black Economic Union. But at that time I had a philosophy. You know, I was an activist. I had a philosophy on the black-white situation in this country. I had what I thought were solutions. And I used to always, of course, try to put this particular program across. I have been disappointed and disillusioned in a lot of my work, so that now I am somewhat confused. I do not have a philosophy based upon what I think is going to bring this country around. To be very frank with you, I do not know. So I cannot sit up here today and give you a speech based upon what my philosophy is, based upon all the latest issues in the country, based upon Vietnam or Korea or Laos or whatever. But maybe as students, although you've been quiet lately, you might be able to ask me some questions and throw out some statements that might help yourselves and might help me. So that's why I think we should rap today instead of having me give a lecture. But in my introduction, in the introduction of myself, I heard a couple of things that I would like to clarify. First of all, as far as sports are concerned, you know, you were told that I was a great fullback and I made all-pro and I played for 9 years and so forth and so on. I'd like to clarify that. Lately, there have been quite a few books written about athletics. There have been many questions raised about athletics. Exploitation, is it a sport? Is it a business? The medical treatment of ball players, the financial situation, the union situation. There are many questions of gambling being in professional sports, the question of amateur sports being really professional sports. All of these things have come up. I'd like to make a short statement, really based upon my outlook on sports in this country today. First of all, sports are not sports first. It's a business. It is set up to make this university function. I think your football program, your basketball program, probably puts more money in the kitty here than any other program. So naturally, if we're putting our emphasis on the money that's going to go into UCLA, we can't really talk about sports from the standpoint of building character. Now, I left professional football at the height of my career. And I did that for one reason. I was fortunate enough to understand that it was a business. I approached it as a business. I did my thing. I allowed them to exploit me. I exploited them. I got the money I wanted. I got the shot I wanted at movies, and I left before they made me leave. And when I left, I was very thankful because I went into another industry, which is movies. And I'd like to give you my opinion of that. Now, we've heard about all the great art that is involved in making movies. The truth is that they get a script, they change it 100 times. They rewrite it every day when they're shooting. The plot changes about 5 times, and when it's finished, they tell you what a great arc that they created because they created this fantastic story that came from a particular written script, which is totally untrue. It's a hodgepodge that if it comes out great, everybody takes credit. If it comes out bad, everyone runs. But there's a lot of money involved, and a few people got fantastically rich, and that is why the movie industry right now is basically dead in Hollywood. A few people stole all the money. They did not put the money on the screen. They were not that interested in art. They were interested in how many people would go to see those films. In movies today, you cannot do art. You cannot go into art. Your art has to be the kind that people are going to go to see. The mentality of the general public is not, they're not going to go in to see an art film. They're going to go in to see a commercial film. That's the kind of film that's going to make money. So consequently, your directors, producers, actors sell themselves to, once again, money. You see, everything seems to be coming down to money in our society. Of course, as students, you don't emphasize that because you go to school free, stuff like that, you know. And as I said, it's very quiet around here now. You know, there are no protests. So let's talk about students. They didn't say anything in my introduction about students, so let's talk about students for a second before we get to you. You know, I'm always interested in how much knowledge students have about all the world affairs that they talk about. You know, very few of us have a great knowledge of ourselves. You know, we're confused about ourselves, what we want to do, what we really are, our relationships with other people, our relationships with our families. But yet, all over the country, the students are being heard. They are protesting. They have fantastic opinions on all of the various situations that involve all of the various countries around the world. Yeah, I see. It's a couple of brothers back there. I used to worry about my brothers, but now they're just like anybody else. You know, the saying goes, a nigger's just like a white man, because we all have our problems. But you know, students have always, in the last 5 or 6 years, protested. They have sort of set the trends for everything. They've shown great wisdom, at least we say that they've shown great wisdom. But as I analyze what the students have been protesting and so forth, I go back to maybe before students protested. I go back to Vietnam. And there were about 3 people that protested Vietnam during this particular time. One of them was a congressman, I can't remember his name. One was a senator. They were ostracized, totally like put down. The other young man has a championship fight coming up. His name was Muhammad Ali. He protested about Vietnam because he didn't want to go in the army, so he made a statement. He doesn't have anything against the Viet Cong or something to that effect. He was attacked by everybody in this country. He was attacked from every direction. He was put down. Then Bobby Kennedy followed. He went to Vietnam and he came back. And he said there was a solution and so forth. But public opinion ran him undercover. They could not stand to hear that. They made him like more or less go undercover. But he was smart. He went undercover, cooled himself, and then he went to all the civil rights leaders. And at the time, their treasure was kind of low. They needed money to keep their organizations going on. So he gave them money. And they came out, and they basically started talking about Vietnam. I think we can remember when King first started on the Vietnam situation. And that was basically because of Bobby Kennedy. And then, because King came out on Vietnam, the civil rights movement went to pot because all the white liberals then kept their monies in their pocket and started talking about Vietnam. And then the students came in. And they started talking about Vietnam, and they wanted immediate action on Vietnam. They wanted us out of there. Yet they didn't understand what it would take to bring us out of there because they didn't even know why we were there. Because most students had never been there, most students had never studied the situation, most students don't understand the organization structure of the government, but yet you get these mass rallies and you get all of these statements coming off the campuses telling us what we should do about various situations around the country. So you can see I'm putting down everything, so I'm going to throw it open for questions and then we can really get into it.
Well, I'd like to start by asking you a question about football. Recently, there has been a lot said about the professional football and drugs. Dave Megacy came out with a book on how, deglorifying the athlete. I was wondering if you could comment, in your years in pro ball, did you notice this, or how widespread was the use of amphetamines?
Actually, you see, I played for 9 years, and I've been out about 4 years, I think. So during the time that I was playing, a couple of fellows used pep pills. I don't know what that was made up of. They gave certain fellows pain-killing fluids in their knees or their toes or whatever. But that was the extent of it. But I would imagine, because everything else has been accelerated, I think you have more drugs now on campus than you had, say, 9, 10, 11 years ago. I think that you probably have more drugs involved in professional sports. I think it's a relative kind of thing. I've never felt that professional sports or amateur sports was above anything else that your normal citizens would be above, your normal citizens would participate in. So that's basically my opinion, and it's only an opinion because I don't have any facts on the matter.
All right, let's open it up to the floor. We have mics on either side, so if you'll raise your hand, we'll try and get one to you.
There's a gentleman to my left. Do you mind if I stand up? Good.
You've laid the problem out for all us students here. You've told us, that it's kind of quiet on campus, and the problems that exist in the world about, Cambodia, Laos, everything. Now, you've given us the problem. I just wonder, what do you think is the solution? What should us, the students, do?
Well, I don't think there is a solution from the standpoint of a body of students doing anything. First of all, I think for anyone that's going to have an opinion on a situation or do something about it, they have to understand it through educating themselves. So the first thing that I would say in attacking any problem, you should educate yourself to what that problem is all about and stop jiving and acting as if you know. Because frankly, I don't know what the situation is about so that I could lay it out pro and con and then come up with a solution. And I challenge any student in here to say that he is so educated on any of those situations that he can lay it out in an intelligent way and then come up with a solution that is going to allow us to continue living in a society that we live in now. So the key would be to educate yourself, to know the pros and cons of a situation, and then try to do something about it. Any other questions?
Let's go to this side over here.
There's a gentleman up front here. You guys got to move faster with those mics.
I'd just like to know what your view of America is today as to, and compared to how it should be, and if the society as a whole is meeting the things that need to be done to reach what America should be.
Well, see, I look at America like I look at any other country or any other situation. We live by certain rules. We live together. We choose to live in a particular city like Los Angeles, or we choose to live in New York. And if we choose to live like that, and if we choose to put emphasis on certain kinds of materialistic things, then it's going to be very difficult to bring the world or bring America around to where it should be, because you move from that and you go to the spiritual. Yet the spiritual is not going to give us a full, a total answer, because then we have our bodies to contend with. Let's say that if we did not have bodies, and we were like suspended and with just our minds working. I think the problem would be a whole lot easier. It's just like a man and a woman that are on the same wavelength, but there are all these other things that's popping at them and coming at them and all these situations that they have to face that eventually will get to them and blow the beautiful thing that they have. So what you have a choice of is going like into a totally spiritual thing and going to the mountain and going back to nature, or you have the choice like most of our girls who decide that at the age of 22 they better start finding a guy to marry because marriage is the thing. And so if they get married and the guy makes enough money, then they can function within the society and get the kind of respect from all the people around them that they need. Doesn't matter if they're happy or not, you see. So what I'm really saying to you, my man, is that there is no solution if we're going to live together and we're going to build buildings and we're going to have to eat and we have these bodies. We're just another animal that have certain things that really we can't do very much about. But there might be a happy medium, you see. Because I think if each individual thinks of maybe one thing, just treating someone else as they would have that person treat them, and then we can get off into a thing. Now, we talk about integration. You know, say if you bring it down to a matter of the races, and people talk about going for integration or not going for integration. See, I don't believe in integration. You know, I mean, it's a funny kind of thing, but I don't believe in integration because it doesn't really make sense to me. See, I think that, you know, I want to live where I want to live. You know, it has nothing to do with integrating with white people. You see, I don't even think integration. I just think movement and freedom. So I can't even discuss integration with people because I'm too arrogant and too conceited. And I think too much of myself. See, because if I meet a person and we get along, that's not integration to me, that's communication, you see. So, you know, I have to bring it down almost to a personal level when I start talking about what's good for America. Because I think it really starts there. You know, a lot of white people have asked me, what can I do? You know, like, what can I do? I say, well, I don't know what you can do. I say, you're all right with me. You know, you seem to be okay. That's cool. You know, you don't have to do nothing. Just treat people like you're treating them. Because as far as I'm concerned, you're all right. And that's down to a very basic level. But I think that too many people that lecture and talk put things on such an intellectual level until it really doesn't become personal to any of us, and we're still left feeling very empty, you know. But anyway, any other questions? Yes. No, there's a lady up front. Ladies first, always. Pretty lady, same cat, huh, boy?
I have a question here. Mr. Brown. Over here.
We'll wait for you and we'll have the lady first. You're next.
Mr. Brown, do you feel that under the present socio-economic system that a great majority of black men feel that the only way they can acquire some type of status and wealth is through the professional athletic world or entertainment?
That's a good question. History have pointed out that those are two areas that you can get your thing together in, because those areas the man has allowed us to do our thing. And I say he's allowed us. We didn't really break in ourselves. He lightened up on us because he could make that big buck on us, you know. And he could always say that in sports, man, we didn't have any brains. We were just physical and stuff, and that didn't put him down at all. And then in entertainment, you know, there's always a tradition of having the people out the darkest in the field singing stuff, you know, for entertainment, and that tradition of putting all these little darkies in the ring and having them box. So, you know, it did not really put him down to allow us to do our thing in those two fields, because, like, it doesn't really take brains to sing, or it doesn't take a lot of brains to play football. But when you start getting into those areas where, you know, like, even in football, like playing quarterback, you know, where it takes brains and you got to get a whole lot of credit for your inner thing, those kind of areas have been very difficult to break into. Now, we're at fault also because we haven't done our homework as black people. See, we have not educated ourselves. We have not taken full advantages of the facilities to educate ourselves and especially in the area of business, so that we could compete with the man. Because in every case, wherever we could compete and wherever he could make a dollar and we could make a dollar, we could actually do a thing. So it's not just the fact that he doesn't allow us to do certain things, it's also combined with the fact that we do not do our homework well and we have not come up to a competitive standard in the society. Now, is that good enough for you, madam? Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar with the hiring practices of Hollywood. What do you think of the so-called minority pool? And specifically, what good is it?
Would you repeat that? I couldn't hear you really.
Oh, I'm sure you're familiar with the hiring practices of Hollywood, the movie industry. What do you think of the so-called minority pool?
The minority vote?
Minority pool hiring out at the studios. Minority pool hiring out at the studios. They have a minority pool where they get so many minorities from each.
I see. I'm not really familiar with this situation. You mean there is a particular setup wherein they have a group of minority people that are there so that when there's a part in a movie calling for a minority person, that that person can fulfill that job?
Yes.
Well, not really being educated to it, I couldn't give a real valid answer. But I know that the minority situation in the films have been very bad. I mean, there have been very few opportunities for minorities. There has been a change in that particular situation in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think now, with the movie industry being like flat on the ground, there will be more opportunity because young filmmakers and people that can make films now with it doesn't take like, say, $2 million. You can do it with $400,000, you can do it with $200,000, you can do it with $50,000. And I think that will allow us to break in on a level that we should have been maybe a long time ago. I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with that pool to really talk about it. Yes. The question is, would I comment on the black Muslims? Well, basically, the black Muslims are the only black group in this country that can call themselves a black group. Basically, they base their philosophy on religion and economics. Religion, if I was Elijah Muhammad, would allow me to pull in a lot of followers, you see, because people are religious and they want something to believe in. The economic thing would allow me to make my own policy. And I feel that the Muslims are the only group in this country that really make their own policy. A lot of people have criticized them, but basically they are a non-violent organization that does stress self-defense. If they're attacked, they will attack back. Basically, they believe in black separatism, which it states in their paper that it comes about because the man doesn't really want to be bothered with blacks. So if a man doesn't really want to be bothered with you, then why should you be bothered with that man? All in all, I have a lot of respect for them. I am not a religious person myself. I'm not a Baptist or Catholic, so I am not a member of the Muslims. Don't want to be a member of the Muslims or any other religious sect. But I do have a lot of respect for them because they're the only black organization in this country that is black controlled, that utilizes black money. Almost every other organization depends on the white man to finance them, and anytime you are financed, baby, you are controlled. And anyone can take issue with that because I'd love to get off into it. I know there has to be some members from certain organizations in the audience. But here's a young lady right here. The question is if I would comment on the living conditions while playing professional football, traveling, and so forth and so on. As a member of the Cleveland Browns, when I first got there, oh, I can dig it, my man. When I first got there, you know, we'd have like, I don't know, 10, 11 black guys or 12. Normally they kept an even number so that we could room with each other. You know, but it was cool with me because I didn't mind. You know, I liked the cat I was rooming with, and most of the black brothers liked each other, so we didn't care about that. The only time that we protested was when there was an odd number. One year they slipped up, there was an odd number, and the guy went out and got an extra room. And see, everybody's supposed to have a roommate, but then they took the black guy and put him in a room by himself. They took the white guy and put him in a room by himself. And that's when we got up in arms, because that was kind of an insult, you see. Before that, it was not an insult, because we didn't mind being with each other. So we fought that, and, you know, Modell, I had a meeting with Modell, and I liked Art at the time. And I said, Art, you got a situation, you know, you got to clean up. And he said, what is it? I said, you guys are segregating us, you know. You got an extra room for this black guy and an extra room for this white guy. You could just put them in the same room, save some money, you know. So, and this is the truth. He said, Jim, you know, I give more money to NACP than you. And I want to talk to those players because I'm in Southern. I said, all right, hold it. I like you, but I can't let you talk to the black players, and you know, because if you told them that you gave more money to NACP than me, they'd all just shut up and they'd walk out of the room. You know, they'd be afraid to say anything to you because they had to make their living. But they wouldn't listen to you 1 minute, and I know you don't mean that. So we got to a point wherein he understood what I was saying, and they eliminated the situation. And that's basically the only problem we ever had.
Yeah,
now,
I've got a
you know,
question.
they let anybody room together. You kind of choose your roommate, or you can switch around if you want to. Because, see, black guys now feel pretty good about themselves. You know, we've caught up with ourselves. Our blackness is not a negative anymore. So we can be with our own and not worry, or we can be with someone else that's together and not worry about that.
Jim? Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. I got a couple of questions over here.
Can I get
One
one
in?
in?
Big brother, you seem to be
Yeah.
strong.
You said several things here this afternoon that I'd like to put to you in terms of questions.
Yep.
You said, one, that black people weren't on their jobs in terms of getting the tools to aid them in this society today.
Yeah, man.
I was wondering, I hope you do realize that there are black students here at UCLA, at this particular institution, and at other institutions around the country doing just that, getting the tools to prepare themselves to the task of liberating themselves and making their lives a little better in the future. I want you to expound on that a little further. Also,
well,
I would like
stop
also
right
I'd like
here.
to put.
I agree with you.
All right, well, let me put the second question to you. You can answer
Some
both
black
at the
people
same
naturally are
time.
doing it. Some black people
Wait just a
people
minute,
always
brother.
did it.
Will you let me? I want to put both questions to you, and then I'll sit down and just listen to your answer.
All right, big brother.
The other one
I told you
is that
strong,
you said that you relate to America's society on an individual level. I mean, as everything that you deal with is from like a one-to-one basis.
Not everything,
how everything
baby,
reacts
not
to you, how you
not
react to it.
everything. That's the wrong word. That's absolute. I don't deal with
I may have
absolute.
misquoted you. You can correct me when I finish.
Yeah, the cats
now
like Lester Maddox, man.
Now, being in the position that you're in as an actor and as an ex-football player, I was wondering, what have you done in terms of the movie industry to complete that task of helping the lives of black people progress to a higher level than you think it is now?
All right, you want me to talk now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, first of all, I'm sure that you didn't feel that I meant that there were no black people in the country getting that thing together. Of course there are black students in the country getting their thing together. Throughout our history there were black people getting their thing together, but there were too few black people getting their thing together. Like the masses of black people, the black people that did have the opportunity on a whole did not get their thing together. We are now starting to get our thing together. And what I'm talking about, man, is dealing with an organization like the Black Economic Union, which stresses economic development of black people, where I have been working with black cats all across the country, where we have been trying to find the guys with the expertise to deal competitively, and we cannot do it except on a limited level. I'm talking about the experience of life, man, of being out here and trying to do it. I'm not talking about talking blackness. I'm talking about being out there, seeing what's happening. And the first thing you got to do is be able to analyze yourself. And I know that I stand here and I do not have all the tools that I should have, because I have not done my homework to the extent that I could have. And I don't believe you've done it. And I just think that coming from underneath, we've got to get on the ball and educate ourselves so that we can compete. because competing is the only way you're going to get the respect that you want. Doesn't matter what you feel about your blackness, man, because there is no blackness. What is black history? All of us that call ourselves black, where are we from? Do we know? Do you know what the definition of Negro is in the dictionary? Do you go by that definition? Have you ever challenged the definition of yourself? Do you know where you are from? Do you know that Alex Haley wrote a book based upon his particular family tree, and he's not even black, but he's categorized black. He's Irish and Sudanese. And Sudanese is basically Mandingo that came over here and they were red and intelligent and stuff. Had nothing to do with black. So I don't identify like that. All I'm saying that if I'm going to generalize about, let me finish. You said you're going to let me talk. So I'm going to, let me finish, brother. All right? You're going to let me talk? Can I finish? But can I finish? Let me finish. I already conceded that point to you, that there are many black people that are doing their thing, as we use the word black, and doing their thing. Okay? Now I'll go on. You say, what have I done in the movie industry to bring about a change for black people across the country? I don't know if one man, can do anything to bring about a change for all black people across the country. See, that's the thing. Let me finish, brother. Can I finish? Okay. I don't think, they tell us that Jackie Robinson had to be a great symbol, because if he didn't do one bad thing when he played baseball, that it would make it good for all the black people following Jackie Robinson. So what it meant that all the black people, regardless if they were good or bad, talented or untalented, had to sit up and look at Jackie Robinson and hope that he did not make one mistake, because if he made one mistake, they would not have their chance. That is all basing a thing on the white man's principle, not the principle of people having talent, people not having talent, and people being people. Now, as far as what I have done, I went into the movie industry for a reason. I'll tell you what my reason was, man. One was money, because I needed to function. Maybe you guys don't. I needed to function. That was one reason. The other reason is because at the time there wasn't any black cats on the screen doing certain things. And I'll tell you what those things were. First of all, they said a black cat couldn't play a crook. I played a crook. The boss crook, the bad crook that got away with the money. We robbed the Coliseum. Okay. Second thing they said a black cat couldn't play a cowboy. I played a cowboy, man, and got the Mexican chick. They made it a Mexican chick. You know. Then they said nobody wanted to see no black people making love on the screen. So I got Diane Carroll and we made love on the screen. Then they said no major studio would make a film starring a black actor and a white actress. So I got Julie Harris and, what's that? Raquel Welch, you see. All right, they had a 5 or 6 or 7 other things that black guys wasn't supposed to do, and I did them, man. Now, after I did all those things, they were done. Now, if no other producer, director could ever tell a black cat that the stuff hadn't been done before. So if I didn't do anything but eliminate one big excuse, I eliminated that one big excuse. I don't take no credit for it because I was making money doing it and having fun. Because they never told me what I couldn't do, because they said this cat is crazy, he's arrogant, he's a militant. So they have to decide what they're going to do with me before they talk to me. And when they talk to me, they don't really tell me about being black and stuff like that. They just have a script and we go and shoot a film.
Well, you misquoted one.
There's a young lady over here to my
Well, can I finish that? Because you misquoted one question.
It's no personal debate between you and me, my man. I dig you. Glad you're a student, but I got to continue. Now, could I hear from this young lady over here? Thank you, brother. See, that's why I don't like to make speeches. My speeches come doing the thing.
I didn't see the program on the Dick Cavett show where you had that encounter with Maddox. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, here's what's happening, you know. I like Cavett because I think he has a wit, and I think he's an intelligent guy. And, you know, I go on his program quite often because of that. I like Carson, but he's just funny, and you got to try to be funny on that program. I can't be funny. And Merv Griffin is a beautiful cat, but he's not too heavy. So I take Kavich, you know, because the cat's quick and he tricks you, and you can play a lot of mental games with him. And Lester, see, when I heard he was going to, see, I was supposed to take my group on. I managed a group called the Friends of Distinction. But we had a contract with Ed Sullivan, so we couldn't go on the show. So they said, well, Lester's going to be there. Come on the show anyway. So I said, okay, because I was interested in seeing this guy, because all I had was the image of that axe handle, a pick handle, and all those things down there, and he seemed like a kind of different character. So I was in the green room watching him on the program, and they had told me before I got there, now don't be mean to this man, because he's really a charming, sweet kind of guy. That's what they said on the Cavett show, because you're going to come off second best if you try to be mean to him. So evidently Cavett thought that also. So I was in the green room, and they were talking about the axe handle, and he said the press was putting him down because they said it was an axe handle, but it was really a pick handle. And, you know, and nobody wasn't challenging that out there. Cavett wasn't saying anything about it, and I thought that was totally ridiculous for him to be able to say something like that. So when I got out, I started on the pick handle thing, and I tried to find out what's the difference between an axe handle and a pick handle if you're going to do some damage with it. And that started it. And like, this guy is one of the shrewdest guys that I have ever encountered. He has a wit about him. He does have a charm about him. And he knows, like every other white politician in this country, is that anytime you have a problem, just start hollering, America, 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 and everybody in the audience will start clapping. Because the mentality of the audience is only so high. And on those talk shows, the trick is that if you let the audience have you play to them, you're going to sell your soul out because you're not going to really say what you want to say. So he hit the audience a couple times with America the Beautiful, and they responded, but I just laid back. Because in my movie training, they told me when a cat was way up here, you go way down here, see? Because you can't challenge him up on that level. And so I was figuring out some kind of way that I could trick him. You know, let him do his thing. I wanted him to talk as much as he could because I knew that he had his biggest anyway. They were going to love him for it. But I knew that there'd be a lot of intelligent people across the country that'd be able to sit back and be astounded by this man's conversation. He would more or less do a thing to himself. But finally, I thought, well, he had a lot of support from some bigots down there. And I'd read a news story that said that he had done a lot of things for black people in the state of Georgia. And also that he had a lot of problems from the people that supported him because he did a lot of things for black people, you see. You don't take credit away from a man just because he happens to be a bigot or whatever. There's sometimes a bigot can do a lot for you as well as a liberal. So I thought if I hit him with that particular question and if I could keep him on it, that he would have to blow some element away. He'd either have to say he didn't do anything for black people, or either he would have to go in and say that his bigots were against the fact that he did things for black people. So Cavett came back and took over for me and rephrased the question and gave him his out. Because he leaped dead off of me and leaped onto Cavett and shocked Cavett. But then Cavett, being very sharp, came back with another thing that was very heavy. And when he came back with a very heavy thing, he should have just backed on away from it and let Maddox handle it, either walk off or stay or do whatever he wanted to do. But because they had programmed themselves to saying that Lester was a charming man, and because he's worried about the network and what they were going to say if this man walked off, he swallowed the bait and allowed the man to walk off and leave him hanging there. And after commercial break, he ran the alley and tried to stop him. But Lester, not being a very charming man and being a very shrewd politician, realized that his only way to get around that particular question was to walk on off the program. And that's basically what happened. How much time do we have?
As long as you want. You know,
Jim, can I ask you a question?
Over here.
Jim.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I've heard, well, you address yourself mainly to the economic problem for black people as a way to liberating ourselves.
Yes.
So I wanted your comment on this. I've heard through unreliable sources that like Motown was controlled by the mafia, and like Motown being the only black economic firm going. I wanted a comment from you on that.
Oh, well, I couldn't comment on that because I don't know what the mafia controlled. You know,
Correct.
There are a whole lot of cats that would be in a better position than me to know that, you know. So I couldn't give you a comment on that at all. But I would like to say that Motown has done a fantastic job in allowing certain artists to develop from the standpoint of an overall audience. Now most of our Motown artists can get to a cross-section of people that can make the national charts. They can become #1. And I think this is a great breakthrough. And, you know, I think that a lot of jobs opportunities have been opened up by Motown. So I give Motown credit for that. As far as who controls it, I have no idea. And it looks as if you all got to get out of here.
Can I ask you one question?
Maybe one more question.
Can I ask you a question out here?
Yes.
It seems to me over here on your left side.
I'm sorry.
It seems to me much of your conversation today has been permeated with the idea of materialism and exploitation in America. Particularly, you talked about when you're playing for football, and also the exploitation of the blacks and other groups, particularly the aspect of business and its evils. Now you're ahead of a black economics union, which is looking for economic power, which is getting into this materialist market. How are you going to save your group from becoming enmeshed in the same problems which face students, which face America at large, the product of technology and business and all the evils that have come from it?
That's a very good question. You know, it's an excellent question. Because I said earlier that if we didn't have these bodies and we just had minds that floated around, the problem would be quite different. I think it would be solvable to a great degree. I feel this. I feel that black people in this country have been told to become socially integrated. They have been told to be nonviolent. They have been told to do all the things except compete in what you might call the rotten industrialist society. Now, I'm saying that we live here. We live here. There's only so much we can do about it. I do not have the answer. I said you could become spiritual and go to the mountain. If we live here, then we should participate in what allows you to have the greatest amount of freedom. And the realistic thing, regardless of how you look at it, is that if you control a part of the wealth, you're going to be able to have a say in the policy making. The political power and the economic power is going to allow you to participate fully in this American way of life. Now, I am not a saint by any means. I am not an angel. I dig a lot of materialism. I dig a lot of this. And I think a lot of us out there also dig materialistic things. So we have to face that. And so, yes, I head up an organization that's trying to allow black people to fully participate in the materialistic way of life. Because I do not have any other answers to give as far as where we can go. I think you can be materialistic and still be a pretty good person. You know, I feel that's an individual kind of thing. But I think that if you're poor, if you have no money, if you have no food, if you have nothing going for you, that you have a pretty difficult life. Because you're still facing the same things, except they're going to come down on you harder. That's the best I can do with that, but it was a good question.
Okay, thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.